It is 97 days to the 2023 presidential election, one that is turning out to be the most keenly contested since return to democracy in 1999. Hello, and thanks for joining us. This is Standpoint. I am Precious Amayu. Now, we're in the thick of campaign season, and the presidential candidates are touring the country, seeking support of Nigerians. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, is preparing both human and material resources needed for the presidential poll. The electoral umpire says it has also started making plans for the conduct of a runoff presidential poll if the situation arises where no candidate meets the conditional requirements for declaring a winner from votes cast on the 25th of February next year. Now, quite a few political analysts have suggested that given the fierce competition between the leading candidates, the election might head into a rerun. Now, joining me now in the studio is the spokesperson of the Kwankwaso NNPP Presidential Campaign Council, Ladikbo Johnson. Good to have you join us.
Hello, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Let me get your thought first on that statement coming from INEC that it is now preparing for a rerun. Do you think that this election will end in a rerun?
Well, about 3-4 months ago, I told people who cared to listen to me within the NNPP and my friends, of course, in the APC and PDP and the Labour Party that we would be heading out for a rerun. But that subject to developments, let's wait till January. By the first, second week in January, I'll be able to predict properly. But I think it is a distinct possibility. It's an election like we've never had before for various reasons. And but by and large, we pray that Nigerians participate en masse and that things go peacefully.
And if it's a rerun, who do you think that the top contenders will be?
Well, it's difficult to say. Definitely, I think we would be there. I think that even if he doesn't get the spread, we intend to get the spread. We're working towards it. Because of where Kwankwaso's strengths are, the volume of votes you get from those areas, I believe he'll come in a first or a second. Even if there's no
I will
spread.
get to that spread in just a moment. But you seem to be sharing different level of optimism with a member of your party, Buba Galadima, who has outrightly said he believes your candidate will win.
Yes, that's
and
what I'm saying.
He continues to say that, but you are saying that it might head into a rerun.
The difference is this. Buba is saying what he believes and knows, I believe, to be what will arrive at by February. I'm saying that if we keep it up, all things being equal, if we keep it up, if we work hard, then I believe that that spread will get in there. You understand?
And I want to get to the spread because it's quite interesting. I would need you to help me do the math in just a moment, because you said you're already looking at some states. But I want to talk about, because you're talking about you winning outrightly. But I was speaking to an analyst yesterday, and we're looking at just the political climb, and then we're talking about the top contenders, and he mentioned the APC and the PDP, and then said, you know, with the introduction of Peter Obi into the cycle as well, it is now a 3-horse race.
Yes.
But then I mentioned your party and your presidential candidate, Kwankwaso. But he said to him that he didn't think that he was a national contender, that he felt that he was more regional than national.
Who was this analyst, please?
I want to mention names.
Well, what I find is that most people in the southern part of the country do not know what is really going on in the northern part of the country. And you have 19 states you're considering there. So if you go to the northern part of the country, they're talking about a 3-horse race. They're not mentioning Labour either. It's the other way around, as it were. That's why I said I want to know who I didn't mean the person, the name of the person, but where that person is situated and everything. But basically, you find that a lot of things are happening. There are lots of dynamics at play, and they keep changing on a daily basis. What is going to happen, for instance, with the Wikes and the Makindays, etc., those PDP governors? Are they going to be in Obi's camp? Are they going to resolve and come back to Atiku? What are they going to do?
You tell us. I know that you're already meeting with them. Are you optimistic that they're coming to your camp?
Kwankwaso will be in Port Harcourt on Monday morning. Well, Monday anyway. Monday, yes, he'll be there. So The dynamics are there. They keep changing. That is why I said that all things being equal. You know, Buba will say it's outright, but I will say all things being equal. But at the worst case scenario, I believe that worst case scenario, we might have a rerun. But I know that we have what it takes. We need to increase. I always tell you the truth. We need to increase our pace. We need a crescendo, especially in the southern part of the country, up until February.
You don't think that, for example, because you mentioned that in the north, it's also a 3-horse race, and that you seem to have excluded Peter Obi from the 3-horse race in the
yes,
north.
I wouldn't.
But you don't seem to think that in terms of just general national appeal, whether it's in the north, because we've seen Peter Obi go to the north, and we've seen that people have turned up for him.
Did you see Kwankwaso come to Lagos?
Just a minute. You don't think that Peter Obi, for example, has a more national appeal than your candidate?
No, I don't think so. Did you see Kwankwaso come to Lagos when we opened the office on Ikorodu Road? Ikorodu Road was shut down. And people know, they say it openly that Kwankwaso doesn't pay. He doesn't pay for crowds. So people were surprised. People kept calling me, and I told them, I said, yes, we're here. I've been Kwankwasia coordinator in Lagos since 2013. We're here. We're just not shouting on social media and other things. But we're here, we're working. So what you find is that in the north, I will tell you Peter Obi is in the north, unlike others will say, generally. And I'll say that because unfortunately for us, some Nigerians tend to vote according to religion, according to ethnicity. If that is the case, then look at the amount of Christians you have in the North Central, in Plateau State, in Benue State, and what have you. So you'll see that he has some ground there. Kaduna State has, and his vice presidential candidate is from Kaduna. Anyway, Kaduna State has a fair size of Christians. I'm not saying just Christians are voting Obi, but it's a catchment area for him. So when you're looking at this thing as a strategist, you have to open your eyes to all this ethnic nonsense and religious nonsense. Unfortunately, we're still at that stage. We keep saying, ignore these things, just go for the person with capacity and competence. But a lot of people still do that. So for anyone to just sit down and say, oh, there's no Kwankwaso in Lagos or in Oyo State. If you take the area where alone in Lagos, they form more than 20-something to 30% of the voting population.
But they're not registered.
Who says they're not registered?
To vote in Lagos.
You think they're not registered. I have been doing my work. You understand?
Are they registered to vote in Lagos?
A lot of them are. A lot of them are not. A lot of them are. You understand? So that comes into play when you're talking about 25% in 24 states. It comes into play. So I keep telling people who say, no, it cannot be Kwankwaso. I ask them, tell me, in all sincerity, is there any of the 19 states that you think Rabiu Kwankwaso will not get 25% of the votes? Even in the North Central? They usually cannot say any. I say, that's all. That leaves us with looking for 5 states.
Is there any of the
19 states
in the
that
north
you think
where you think
he cannot get 25%?
But is there any of the 19 states in the north where you think that, for example, the APC presidential candidate or the PDP presidential candidate, or maybe the Labour Party candidate, will not do better than your candidate?
Oh yes, several states, but you won't believe that now. When by the time it comes to January, you start to say, oh, things are looking different. Some people have started to say it. Even Fayoshe was on TV the other day on channels saying the same thing. Things are looking, for those who are going down to find out what is happening, they know that things are beginning to look different in the states. For instance, would it be so automatic for Atiku and PDP in Oyo State? What if Makinde and Wike go the other way? You understand? So there are things, I'm just playing devil's advocate. There are things that are at play, and the dynamics keep changing. And I think it is to the benefit of Nigerians anyway, because it pays them better come February to have, maybe if no one wins at first ballot, to have parties have to sit together and widen the platform, as it were. That is the parties that have platforms. You understand? We have a clear ideology. We have a clear roadmap to what we want to do. So Kwankwaso has a platform. People know what it stands for.
The platform you're talking about, even I've listened to analysts who even say that, look, his strongest or his stronghold, or the greatest stronghold seems to be in Kano.
Yes.
But that even now in Kano, it is not a certain, because you have the governor there, Ganduje, who is there. You have the former governor, Shekarau, who has now moved, out of the NNPP to the PDP. And that leaves the state up for play.
Yeah. When I was talking about our platform, I was talking about the manifesto. But back to this. Kano, when you talk about Ganduje, let me put it this way. When Ganduje wanted his second term, or when he got his second term, if you recall 2019, Kwankwaso stood alone. Ganduje, Shekarau, Senator Barrow, the other senator, Jibrin, Abdulmumin Jibrin, all were in APC. And everyone knows that, Jibrin has said it, everyone knows that the PDP candidate won the governorship. It was called inconclusive, one little place inconclusive, and they came later on and did some magic with soldiers and whatever, yes, and Ganduje got his rig.
We will always go with the result of the INEC.
Exactly, that's what, hang on, Precious,
yes,
that's
INEC,
what I was saying.
And
that's what I was
declared
saying.
him winner.
But INEC declared him winner. I said that earlier, there's no doubt about that. Now, Kwankwaso is on the ballot. The indigenes of Kano will tell you that their son is on the ballot. It's a totally different thing. Totally different. He is on the ballot. They will tell you, yes, of course, the governor will have some of his Look, people who are involved in the political parties, I don't think we form 5% of those who are going to vote. I want you to understand that. So definitely those in the political parties will say, yes, I'm going with Peter Obi, I'm going with Tinubu, I'm going with Atiku, because they're parties. But the average indigene of Kano that saw what Kwankwaso did as governor, that has still made him relevant till tomorrow, not just today, will tell you that he's going for the presidency.
But when you say those who are members of parties who, I'm trying to remember how you just said it, I'm not up to about.
I'm saying
I'm not
that,
up to 5% of those who will vote.
What I'm saying is this: those who belong to political parties, what percentage of the voting public are we?
But when you look at the numerical strength,
yes,
of these parties, for example, the APC said it has registered over 40.
Story.
Hold on. I mean, we are taking their word for it. Let's assume, and we're going with their register. They say they have over 40 million registered members, right? And PDP also says it has millions of registered members. Mm-hmm. If 40 million, if APC already has about 40, let's assume that 20 million of those people vote, right? What is your own numerical strength in your party to compete with what APC and PDP has?
First thing, all they're saying is balderdash. I won't swear on TV. This is rubbish. When PDP tells you about their numerical strength, my name is there. I was in PDP. When APC talks about their numerical strength, we were there, 2014, 2015. And I'm sure they haven't removed the names from the... Don't listen to all that. If one says he has 40 million, another says I have millions, maybe 30.
If you don't think it's up
whatever,
to 40 million, but what is the numerical strength of your party to compete with what these other parties have?
Hang on. I don't want to give you a figure that is wrong. I'm not the organizing secretary of the party. I am the national auditor, and then I'm the spokesperson of the campaign. So I'm not in a position. But I know that we have candidates virtually everywhere. When INEC released the list of candidates, we had even more, when we talked about the National Assembly, even more than the APC. We're next only to the PDP in fielding. We have them everywhere. We have party structures everywhere. So that I'm fine with that. And we're working. And we're growing every day. We're building alliances, I want to say, because you have a lot of groups that are not registered party members. They call themselves NGOs or what have you. So we're building bridges every day. We're working towards it. No one is in this to fool himself or herself. You understand? If I'm not strong in a place, I'll tell you I'm not strong. Last time I was here, I told you that I have
I'm not sure. Lots of politicians are always optimistic. I'm not sure.
What did I tell you the last time I was
strong.
here, Precious? I told you, okay, you wasn't it. I told the lady, I said, look, we need to do a lot of work in the southern part of the country. And the person said, oh, you're the first person that would actually admit to such a thing. So I don't fool myself. Because I don't need...
And what level of work have you now done in the southern parts of the country?
Yes, we're working. Lagos is even looking better. I'm in Lagos directly. It's looking better. It can look much, 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 much more better. And I think we will get there by mid-January. I prefer for us to be on an upward slope and to reach the crest around January, February.
Sorry, just to jump in. When you say we will get there, getting there, does that mean that you're saying that you're going to win Lagos if the election were to hold next year?
No.
Getting there means winning Lagos?
Getting there means that our overall strategy towards winning the election, which I cannot say on live TV, our overall strategy, when you hear Buba Galadima speaking or Kwankwaso speaking, what the tasks we have, we in the Southwest, for instance, for Lagos, Oyo, Ogun, we will get there by January. We know the figures we're hitting. We know what we have to do. So it's a complete thing. Every party, everyone has a path that they feel to victory. Let me give you an example. George Bush Jr. and Al Gore at that time. Al Gore toured the whole of the US. But George Bush went to the places where they felt there were electoral votes. You know, the American system is slightly different. And at the end of the day, with the help of the Florida pregnant child, dimpled child, and the Supreme Court, he became US president. So the way you play a game today is not the way you play it in 4 years' time, except the facts are the same. So when people sit down and say, oh, there are three parties, there's this, there's that, I just laugh. And I keep telling people that, well, we will realize when the time comes. And when they say, oh, Kwankwaso is stepping down for Tinubu, oh, Kwankwaso is stepping down for Atiku, I laugh as well. He has no reason to step down for either of them. And if he didn't have anything in the north apart from Kano, then they wouldn't all be looking for him. And Obi and Co wouldn't have been saying, oh, he should be vice president, he should be vice president. It's not just Kano, but time will tell. I don't have to convince anyone.
Your publicity secretary in Lagos has said that Kwankwaso will shock people in Lagos. And, you know, I saw that statement. I was wondering, what exactly does he mean when you say Kwankwaso will shock people in Lagos?
Okay, let me give you an example. Let me just give you.
I really don't know the structure your party has.
I told you, we have structures everywhere. Everything we should have, local ward chairman, local governments, to the state, we have it everywhere. Now, what he's trying to say is this, or well, let me not say his name is Richard Benson. I'm not saying that, I don't want to interpret what he's saying, but what I believe is that Lagos will be shocked by the results that will come out from Lagos. And even if the APC candidate were to win Lagos, even if, you understand, if you're a betting man, you'll bet on him. Even if he were to win, his margin of victory will be so slim. It will damage whatever he's planning for. He is a strategist anyway, as Kwankwaso said, that, oh, my friend Tinubu is a strategist. That's why he's sitting in the north. That's why he's sitting in the north. Look, Precious, look at what you've had over the years. Yes, we know people are going to come out this time. We've had registration and everything. And we pray they come out this time and things change. But there are some things there. Lagos has always had higher registered voters. But they never go past 1,600,000, 800,000, 1 point something. And those were in the days where they used to write results. Now we have the beavers. It's going to be difficult. Now in the north, even where they have lower registration, they have higher turnout, much higher. You see them coming out to vote. A lot of our friends in Lagos, no matter what they say, when you phone them a day to elections, Ladipo, I'm in London. I'm here in the club. They don't participate during elections. They just sit at home. Most of them are middle class, businessmen and what have you. And they believe, well, any government there will try to do what will do. So Lagos might not be as we normally, in fact, the whole of Nigeria might not be as we would expect. But
and these permutations that you're counting on, because you've talked about how the North has higher voting population in terms of the turnout, voter turnout rather.
Yeah.
You've also talked about
even
the Arawa
registration.
You've also talked about the Arawa community
and the Igbo community.
And the Igbo community.
Yeah.
Isn't that the same thing? Because your candidate is not the only northern candidate in this election.
Definitely not.
Isn't that the same thing that the PDP candidate would also be counting on? And so,
of course, hang on.
Doesn't he have more popularity than your candidate?
Hang on, you see, that's the problem. If you now ask a primary school student now, who is Atiku? And ask them, who is Osinbajo? More of them will say, we know Osinbajo, we know Osinbajo.
The primary school students are not voting. Those who are
exactly.
voting
Listen
should
to
know
it.
Atiku.
Listen to it. That is what would happen. So Atiku has name recognition because he was vice president here, and he's contested every election since 99. Vice president, then whatever. Yeah, he's been contesting. So he has name recognition. That doesn't mean that he has as much acceptance in the core North as the other northern candidate, which is Kwankwaso. I make bold to say. That doesn't mean he might have that name recognition here. And then when you go to it, there are some people, Atiku is a businessman. I'm not implying anything. A lot of those in business, the more wealthier northerners that you'll see in Lagos, might be akin to saying, oh, yes, Atiku is someone we can approach. But go to the Talakawas, the poor people, the average people on the streets. I make bold, go and ask them, 10 of them, even do it in Lagos. 8 out of 10 will tell you Kwankwaso. 2 will tell you Atiku. So there's a difference. So we're all looking at the same amount of people and permutations, as you say. You understand? Well, there's a difference between middle class, working class, Christian. There's even a difference between Pentecostal, Neo-Pentecostal, Roman Catholic, Anglican. You understand? There's a difference.
You are saying that the PDP candidate is out of touch with the grassroots?
I'm not saying he's out of touch. I'm saying that he is not so endearing to them as a Kwankwaso would be endearing to them.
And what
because
makes
of the
Kwankwaso
policies,
more endearing? Because
of the grassroots policies that Kwankwaso had as governor, not just for indigents of Kano State, but for anyone that was resident in Kano. So he did all that. Look, when Kwankwaso was going to, let me give you an example. Let me give you an example.
I will let you give that example along with this question, because I'm trying to, expand on what you just said. You were saying that someone who was the governor of a state,
exactly,
in Kano, and only was responsible for Kano,
yes,
has more acceptance
to the
people
working class
in the North.
Yes, let me tell you why.
19 states.
Than
someone who was a vice president.
Let me tell you the reason why. I was just going to give you an example. When Kwankwaso, he's on a tour, he's in Yobe as we speak. When he was going to go to Borno State, where Shetima is from, Governor Zulum or whomsoever closed the office we were meant to open a day or 2 days before he got there. It was the people of Borno that got up and said, hey, you can't do that. Because in 2015, even before Jonathan's government sent aid or aided Borno State during the scourge of the Boko Haram, when it just really started there, Kwankwaso adopted over 100 young children who were orphaned, took them to Kano, built schools for them, built everything. They're growing up. It was the people of Borno that came there. Go to Jigawa and talk to them. and say, did you benefit from Congoso? Go in the north, go there. Even now, what am I talking about? When he left government, he's been doing, what do we call it, scholarships around the entire country, 4 per state to university level. When Ganduje refused to pay for the, as governor of Kano, for those that were still stuck overseas, he sold his houses and was joined by some of his parents to pay those school fees. Now, those students were residents of Kano, not indigens. There was Igbo, this, that, male, female, and you assume that those children now, or those young adults now, wherever they are, they trained over 100 pilots. Wherever they are, you think they won't be talking to their people or their family, members of their family will not be talking? So when it comes to education, free education, the Northwest and Northeast know that, oh, when that man was in Kano, it was Kano, nowhere else, he performed. It's like a governor performing in Oyo State or in Lagos, and you think it will not affect the people of Oyo, Ogun, Osun. They will. The wind will blow.
Let's do that. That permutation you were talking about the spread. I told you we're going to get there. How many states do you think he can win that 25% spread, or which are the 24 states you think he can have that 25% spread?
What I'm saying is this: in the 19 states, I believe, except something horrible goes wrong, we believe we will have at least 25% in those 19 states. Now, the job is for us, the Southerners. Which of the states in the South can you bring in 25% of the votes? See? So that's the homework. And if you'll be broadcasting on election day.
Definitely, and I'm sure we would have you again after elections. I mean, you've said a lot of things that I would hold you up to, and all of this optimism. When the results are read, if you're right, we'll have you. If you're wrong, we will also have you.
No problem.
And then we'll talk about it. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks. The spokesperson for the NNPP Kwankwaso Presidential Campaign Council, Ladipo Johnson.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Thanks for staying with us. You're watching Standpoint, and the focus is the 2023 presidential election with 97 days to go. Joining me now from our Abuja studio is Olumide Braithwaite. He's a member of the Media and Publicity Committee, Tinubu Shetima Grassroots Independent Campaign Council. Good to have you join us.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Let me start by asking you this. We'll get into the APC issues in a minute, but I know you used to be a member of the PDP and you left in 2018. What's your thought on what's now going on in that party, especially at the national level?
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me on this platform. Yes, I contested at the senatorial level in the PDP. And being from the Southwest, Lagos, I saw firsthand, I was part of the 40-man committee at the time that we had the leadership crisis, I think in 2015. And the problems in the PDP are plentiful, and it's no surprise that what is taking place today has, even as recently as yesterday, with Governor Wike's association with Peter Obi. Of course, Peter Obi is ex-PDP as well. And for us in the APC, we believe that this scenario, this situation, puts us, makes us far stronger for the presidential race.
I knew you were going to say that because I was going to ask you if you think that will better your chances. But let's get to the ICC, which is the Independent Campaign Council. Perhaps APC is about the, I'm not sure about other parties, but is about the only party with the Independent Campaign Council. What's the mandate of the ICC?
The ICC, as the name suggests, is an independent campaign council. It is to complement the efforts and the activities of the PCC, which was recently flagged off at the presidential villa here in Abuja. As Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has to be commended for this innovation because it's completely novel. I recently gave an interview a couple of weeks ago where I called him a revolutionary. I come from a revolutionary background from my late father, Dr. Tunji Braithwaite, and the Nigeria Advanced Party, which was revolutionary in its manifesto. And what warms my heart and what makes us more emboldened is the fact that the presidential race is taking this revolutionary dimension. The ICC, I'm proud to say, is made up of technocrats at the highest level, and something that's never happened in politicking in this country is going to be witnessed. We are going to go door to door in all 774 local governments of this country. We are going to ensure that the hamlets, the villages, those people that are normally cut off from the network are going to be reached in their local dialect and their tongues. We're going to set up media centers across all 37 states with coordinators and supervisors to ensure that this campaign is more robust than we have ever witnessed. So yes, the ICC is here, and our activities are plentyfold as well. And I'm very, very humbled to be part of this innovative structure.
You're talking about the grassroots, and just was it yesterday? I think it was, where the poverty figures were released, and now we have about 133 million people who are now living below the poverty line, which means they live on less than $1 per day. So when you're talking, and I'm sure those are the kind of people who make up the grassroots. The President Buhari has said he was going to cut down the numbers, but the numbers have increased by a few millions. When you get to the grassroots, what do you tell them? How do you sell your candidate?
Well, with the economic meltdown in Nigeria is no different than what is going on globally. There is global recession, there's global inflation, and we are by no means immune to that. The message to the millions that are poverty-stricken is that our candidate, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in our opinion, and I strongly believe this, is the best candidate to get us out of this situation. We have to look inwards because we are faced with tremendous challenges globally, and within the confines of our territory of Nigeria, we have insecurity. We have religious and ethnic skirmishes. We have unemployment. And therefore, the message has to be one of hope. Hope. And I know that our candidate, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, possesses everything it takes to put us in the best possible situation to come out of these challenges. And that's the message that we hope to transmit to everybody, devoid of religion, devoid of ethnicity, and we are firmly entrenched in that belief, and that is the message that we are putting out there for all Nigerians.
But people, most people who are going to vote are those who really do not focus on posters or campaign messages. They focus on issues. And when this kind of when we get this kind of reports, what does it mean for your chances?
Sorry, I didn't understand the question. Can you repeat that?
My question was for those who vote, and if we go by the previous statistics that we have, that those who actually vote are the grassroots, and they usually don't focus on campaign posters. They focus on the issues at hand and how it affects them. And with this kind of report of the poverty, the new poverty numbers, what does it mean for your chances?
Well, I mean, those figures that you're referring to were released by the MBS. I will tell you, for example, from a legal standpoint, which is my constituency, inflation is a reality. If you're talking about real estate and property, this is witnessing negative equity, and so we have to be innovative. I know that the party manifesto of our presidential candidate is robust enough to have addressed some of those issues. Our over-reliance, for example, on oil and gas products, and a more diversified economy. We all know that we have a workforce that is vibrant and young, but largely untapped. And Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu is that person that we need to go to at this time. And irrespective of those figures that were published, we all know we are all Nigerians and we are all facing this hardship together. So it's not rocket science by any means, but certainly, again, I reiterate that this candidate is the best candidate for this country at this time of our situation.
All right, so let's turn to the campaign itself. The presidential candidate was in the Southeast. He went to Imo State where he held a town hall meeting with, I think it was the business community. And we heard from the governor that about 1 billion naira has been raised for him or donated by business leaders and businessmen in that community. What are your, I mean, I don't know if you went to Imo State with him, but the reports you get from that state, what do you think your chances are now in the Southeast?
Our chances, the APC chances are as strong as ever. I would like to emphasize that notwithstanding obviously you're referring to what transpired with the governor of Rivers State and the Labour candidate, Peter Obi. Irrespective of that, we maintain that the APC is going to win the southeastern states, and there will be even more surprises in store as we continue to wind down the clock towards February 2023.
You seem optimistic. Can you actually get, there are 5 states in the Southeast, can you actually get 25% spread? I wasn't there yet with the meeting between the Labour Party candidate and Governor Wike. I was going to get there later, but let's just focus on the Southeast itself. President Muhammadu Buhari didn't poll well in the Southeast. He did better in 2019 than he did in 2015, but not as well as he did in other parts of the country. How, again, you seem optimistic, but can you actually get the 25% spread in eastern states, southeastern states?
I certainly believe we can. the situation now is far, far different to what transpired in 2019, quite apart from the change in personnel, if I may use that phrase. And we know that the personality involved is a bridge builder. He builds bridges. He doesn't divide bridges. And his record and the figures are there to be scrutinized. So I will throw that 25% issue back at you to suggest that you should be able to give us indications as to why not the APC will not secure those figures. I certainly, I wouldn't even describe it as optimism. It's more pragmatic reality, if you can put it that way. And so we are pushing on. I think the train is in Delta in Warri today as we speak, and the schedule continues to run. We are all working very hard to ensure victory because we believe in this country and we're not going anywhere. We have to salvage this country, and we have to do that for the youth and the unborn generation. That is the legacy that we have to focus on at this time.
Interesting you mentioned Delta, and also interesting you mentioned the meeting between the Labour Party presidential candidate and Governor Wike. If Governor Wike and the G5 governors were to stay, as they are now called, were to stick with Peter Obi, you don't think that that would hurt your chances in the South-South, especially because your campaign is in Delta State today?
Not at all. It depends from what perspective that you're looking at it. The beneficiary is the APC, in my humble opinion, and the PDP is the worst off as a result of that, because as it is, we know that Peter Obi himself was from the PDP and depleting votes further. If we're talking about the South-South, that is the situation. For us, it's not a problem whatsoever, not at all.
You said the beneficiary will be the APC. How will the APC benefit from that?
Yes. Well, we're talking about a situation where Governor Wike, who is still in the PDP, is giving his logistics, as reports have it, to Peter Obi. It's not rocket science, but the loser in that situation is the PDP. Undecided voters, for example, are therefore for other parties, quite apart from the APC, to poach. So it's the PDP's loss, hook, line, and sinker. And the APC are potentially the beneficiaries of that, absolutely.
And I like that you mentioned undecided voters, because really, I don't think that a lot of people put undecided voters into consideration. Sometimes the messaging is targeted at people who are already supporters. And so let's allow you address undecided voters. Why should they vote for Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, bearing in mind that the APC government have been in office for more than 7 years, and some people are not quite satisfied with how things have gone? Why should undecided voters go with Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu?
Thank you very much. That is a very important question. I'd like to address that first by again referring to the idiosyncratic or the peculiar situation that we face ourselves. In 2019, we had numerous challenges, and I dare say now we have even more. We did a survey, an independent survey recently with the youths between 18 to 40 years old. And out of 10, a percentage would say that they are obedient, and out of that percentage, there's another percentage that are undecided as to where to vote. And this silent minority cannot be overlooked. And our goal is to demonstrate through the trajectory, through the history of the person, of the personality of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, that he is by far the most qualified candidate to get us out of this situation. In a growing democracy that we have, the emergence of Peter Obi is to be welcomed. It is a welcome development. If we look back to our growing democracy, which reignited itself in 1999, the PDP was a consortium of sorts, essentially to transition the country away from military rule. And it was almost, for some time in this country, if I can remind ourselves, that it was a one-party state, if not for the likes of the ADs and the APGAs and which later, and the CPCs. And so having a three-legged race is great. I welcome it, and I think we all should, without reverting to a campaign of dirt and that kind of level of sophistication. Rather, let everybody put their best foot forward, and let's do what's best in the interest of the country.
I was speaking to the spokesperson for the NNPP earlier, where Kwankwaso is their presidential candidate, and I was asking him the statement made by INEC that it is now preparing for runoff election, possibility of a runoff election. Do you think that, a rerun rather, do you think that we're going to head into a rerun? Because you mentioned the emergence, and all of that is because of the emergence of a candidate like Peter Obi. Do you think that we're going to have a rerun?
You're mentioning the spokesperson for NNPP. Is that, you're talking about Mr. Ladipo Johnson?
Yes, he sends his greetings, by the way.
Right. He's my good friend and brother. However, I don't believe we're going to get to anywhere near anything of the sort of a rerun. I think that these elections are certainly going to throw up a lot of surprises, and we welcome those surprises. But that will not alter the outcome of this race. And on that we stand.
And what do you think the outcome of the race will be?
Well, I'll leave that to your imagination. Obviously, I'm here on this network before millions of Nigerians, standing by what we have said and believing in what we have said for the betterment of this country. Listen, we have only one country. We have numerous problems. we should focus on the issues at hand rather than focusing on distractions. And this is what we are lending our voices to. And so, again, we stand by the ideology, we stand by the vision, we stand by the dream of our presidential candidate, Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
I'm sure you know we're following your campaign through and through. We know you're in Delta today. We have our eyes on it. Thank you so much for talking to us. I'm sure as the campaign progresses, we'll have you over and over again to talk about these issues. The member, Media and Publicity Committee of the Tinubu-Shettima Grassroots Independent Campaign Council, Olamide Braithwaite, thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
And that Standpoint, you can catch a repeat at 11 p.m. tonight and 5 a.m. on Sunday morning. Thank you so much for watching. I am Precious Amayo.